there guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another Retro RPG. The end of another week, the end of another poll. We've got a very clear win for the Army of Darkness RPG from Eden Studios. Now this is going to be a PDF review, so we'll be having a look at that on the computer desktop in a wee second. And I'll be back at the end of the video with some other channel related stuff and some other poll related stuff. But before I do that, I'd like to take a moment to talk about my Patreons, who this week I have been informed are groovy, which is absolutely lovely. Now, if you'd like to join them and gain access to these videos a week early and help support the channel, or gain access to one of the other levels of patronage, then there's a link in the description down below. If you check it out, it'd be very much appreciated. But anyway, let's have a look at the Army of Darkness RPG. So, this is Army of Darkness role-playing game, which came out in 2005 from Eden Studios. And this is obviously a long time after the movie, because the movie Army of Darkness came out in 1992. So, the entire Evil Dead franchise was pretty dead by this time. But Eden Studios as a publisher makes a lot of sense for an Army of Darkness role-playing game, because obviously they did the fantastic All Flesh Must Be Eaten zombie game, and they did the Buffy and Angel role-playing games. So, people fighting monsters. It very much sits into this. Now, we'll have a look through it in a second, but this book is kind of torn between two bases. One of them's not that interesting, which is it's based around the Army of Darkness movie, so we're getting the characters, the settings, and the basic plot of that movie to add to a role-playing game. That's not that interesting because who wants to just play the exact same plot? And there's not much outside that. But the far more interesting idea they introduce is the idea that the players are time-travelling heroes, drawn to fight the Deadites throughout time. So, where Ash is taken from the 20th century back to medieval times to fight the medieval dead, the players could be a Viking warrior who ends up in the Wild West, or could be a cowboy from the Wild West who ends up in samurai times, or whatever. You know, you can take heroes from different times, slot them all together, and put them in a completely different time for them to fight Deadites. And that's quite an interesting mashup, especially if you carry dragging them through time, and that's your campaign, as they jump from time to time, fighting Deadites and stopping the world ending in different ages. And you could build in campaign things where they end up going back to a previous setting because things have been set off, and they meet people they once met. It's a really fascinating concept, but, as I said, only about half the book is based on that. The other half is just, here's Army of Darkness if you want to put that into your role-playing game stuff. Anyway, let's have a look at the back cover first of all. So I'll flip through all the pages. Alright, you primitive screwheads, listen up. You're in a strange land with strange people and you're not thinking too clearly. The natives are suspicious, the leader's hostile, and the priest's cryptic, and no one's bathed in months. Advanced tech is a hole in the ground filled with sewage. The basic food groups are roasted haunch, mouldy bread, and watered-down wine. Getting hope ain't gonna happen anytime soon. First you need to find some stupid book, recite some stupid phrase, then bring the stupid book back to the stupid castle. Heck, there's probably a bunch of other stupid stuff you have to do. Just nobody's told you about that yet. Oh, and then there's the army of undead just over the hill looking to gnaw on your soul. Inside the Swank Beauty will show you how to put the dead in the Deadite. Inside you'll find an introduction to role-playing and the Army of Darkness story, a guide to character creation including ready-to-play champions and companions, as well as specs on the Army of Darkness cast for your quick play pleasure, Army of Darkness Unisystem streamlined for cinematic action and adventure, guidelines for bringing the little people together, training them and pitting them against forces of evil, blow-by-blow instructions for creating Army of Darkness role-playing game sessions, a rundown on the Army of Darkness setting, places, peoples, events, including details of evil clones, demons, undead, and other evil critters, fleshed out new setting suggestions, taking your Army of Darkness game in freshly gruesome directions, a complete adventure to get the horror and hilarity underway the right way. And that's kind of what it is. Now, one of the interesting additions as well is there are mass combat rules in here. Because Army of Darkness obviously has the war between the people in the castle and the army of zombies outside, which Buffy and Angel and the like don't tend to have. All Flesh Must Be Eaten doesn't tend to have massive armies massing against massive armies of zombies. It tends to be much smaller scale. But Army of Darkness obviously has it built into the name that there's armies involved. So there is a mass combat system built in here, which is kind of interesting, a bit different from the other Unisystem games, even if it's not terribly well fleshed out. Some nice artwork, obviously the movie posters, credits page, table of contents, kind of wackily named. I'm not a massive fan of that, but we've got things like Ash Rules, Battle System, Director's Cut, Lands of Darkness, Worlds of Darkness, once more onto the breach. So we've got different background information, just basically telling us the story of the movie. Gathering Darkness. What's the Buzzman? Ash's world isn't all that dark. Sure, everyone around him tends to get eaten, but being his love interest is your way to end up in demon inside you. But it's all good fun. Army of Darkness is half horror and half camp. We're not talking about Wakamita here. We're in mean camp as in humour. The Army of Darkness role-playing game is the same thing. About half of the features gory scenes of carnage and destruction. The rest about who delivers the coolest line where they're blasting the head off some deadite with a boomstick. So, like most role-playing game sessions, people cracking jokes while doing horrifically gruesome things. They're getting the tone nice. Explaining about how to play role-playing games, what a director is, games master, what game sessions are, getting started, cards, Unisystem, summary of the chapters, different things, dice, talking about gender, measurements, cosmology, the story, wackiness ensues, questing for the Necronomicon within the woods, as we go through section by section through the movie. Death to the Mortals, big battle scene, come to Papa, with Evil Ash gone, Sheila's curse is lifted, she gets all soft and supple again. And then it leads up, Ash swallows. The wise man uses the Necronomicon to devise a magical potion. Each drop allows a man to sleep for a century. Ash rides off, seals himself in a cave and drinks his 6 drops. The studio's version of Army of Darkness shows Ash back in his own time, back at the S-Mart. He's doing his thing when a Deadite turns up on aisle 9. Ash shows he's still the man by whipping out a lever-action rifle and riding the shopping cart towards the she-bitch. He fires along the way and blasts the thing to perdition. His final line in the movie, "Hail to the King, baby." But wait, there's more. Because there's a director's cut, obviously, where he wakes up in a post-apocalyptic London setting. Which I thought would have been fascinating, but unfortunately we didn't get that. And the Ash vs. Evil Dead TV series was fantastic. I did love that, putting him back in the current day. Chapter 2, Promised Ones. So it's talking through different types of characters. If you're familiar with Unisystem, you know that you get different grades of characters. You get sort of hero characters and lesser ones. So you can be absolutely super powered, or you can be a pretty ordinary person. So we've got introducing all of that, promised ones, which are the mega heroes, getting your groove on, explaining what the character sheet's laid out, character elements, what type of character you are, whether you're a hero or a primitive screwhead, experienced hero, what attributes are, how to buy them, meaning of numbers, the 6 attributes, just going through all the standard introductory stuff, life points, qualities and drawbacks. So we've got lots of qualities and drawbacks here, advantages and disadvantages, basically. Carrying on through, lots and lots of those. Well, we've got Promised One, Psychic Visions, Recurring Nightmares, Status, Toolman. Then we've got Skills, and again it explains its way through the skills, acrobatics, art, computers. We've got Combat Maneuvers, Drama Points, Archetypes. And then we're on to the official cast. Well, we've got pre-generated characters here. So an archaeologist, a sort of female Indiana Jones type character. She's a primitive screwhead, so she's a bit weaker than the other characters. What else we got? A folk hero, who looks like Zorro. He's a hero, so more powerful. A little bit. A game designer. Now this is something that Eden Studios likes putting in their game, where you'll have role players, games master, and now game designer in each of the different things. It's a sort of in-joke, but they're kind of cool. He's wearing an All Flesh Must Be Eaten t-shirt. We've got Gladiator, because as I said, these heroes can be from throughout time. So we can have a Roman gladiator who's a hero. A gunslinger. A Hollywood Dick. Although for some reason the background on the Hollywood Dick still has gunslinger in the background. Whereas all of the others have what they are. Night Stalker, so Kolchak out of the 70s TV series. A journalist who investigates things and stops it. Night Stalker, a race car driver who looks a bit anime with that haircut to me. A rollerballer, so somebody from a future sport, violent sport. And a Viking. We've got stats for Ash, Ashley J. Williams. Lord Arthur, the king character out of it. Duke Henry the Red. Sheila, a blacksmith, archer captain. And then we've got Ash rules, which are basically the rules. So running a game, the basics, the uni system, success levels, what you're rolling against. This is a uni system. I've covered it on our rules breakdown for All Flesh Must Be Eaten. We've got resisted actions, roll modifiers, whether you should be rolling at all, using attributes and skills, unskilled but game, if people are working together, ability scores, and we've got quick sheets. So NPC sheets where you don't need a full character sheet for them, you've just got all the information you need laid out in a much easier format. Movement, horror, fear tests, combat, combat maneuvers, so we can do things like aim, do a bow shot, brain shot, chainsaw ballet, choke, crossbow shot, decapitation, groin shot, jump kicks, just lots of combat maneuvers, combat complications, whether you're attacking from behind, whether you're tied up, whether you're using a power tool and something might be going wrong, whether you need to draw the weapon before you can use it. Just lots of complications, multiple actions and all that. Explaining ranged combat. Now, how much does damage work? Buckets of blood, weapon descriptions. So we've got blunt weapons, we've got boomsticks, chainsaws, daggers, knives, flamethrowers, grenades, lances. A mix-up of modern and medieval weapons. The thing I kind of notice is missing is, because it's supposed to be from throughout time, there's nothing like laser weapons or futuristic stuff in here. It's all fairly balanced into medieval or modern day. It doesn't really count into the other times. But then again, a sword is a sword, an axe is an axe if you're playing the Viking or the Gladiator. We've got different types of armour here. Bad stuff like consciousness tests, survival tests, etc. How to heal up, breaking things, driving vehicles around. The drama point system and how to use drama points. Introducing plot twists, whether you come back from the dead. How to earn drama points, experience points and levelling up, experience and improvement. Costs for all of that. An example of combat. We've got the battle system here, which has just some very large general descriptions to it. So getting narrative, plans and schemes, leading from the front. In the thick of it, melee attacks, sniper ranged attacks, battle tests, modifiers, casualties, retreat, pulling it all together. And that's it. So it's a very generalised combat system where you're just going to be making a few rolls as a commander to inspire your armies, how many people die in the battle. It's not getting into great details of moving things around on maps, which makes a lot of sense for an Army of Darkness game because it's not that kind of movie. It's not a tactical movie. It's a heroic movie. So you're leading from the front. Director's cut. So we've got time and place. It's talking about different settings. So for the Medieval Dead, for Army of Darkness, we've got medieval England. Talking about, other times and places as well. Will be mentioned in the next chapter. The Evil of Necronomicon, The Restless Dead. Isolation. Because it's the game. Cast options, who you might include in it. Promised One and Friends. A group of heroes. Just one person. And how to create a game. So planning a session, putting bad guys into it, etc. Plots and subplots, the main plots, talking about approaching doom, foiled again, friend or foe, love is a battlefield. Putting subplots in, what villains, henchmen, and innocent bystanders, and setting the difficulty of it, attributes, ability scores for your opponents, for the heroes. We've got different tables here, so muscle score table, combat score, brains score table. Breaking things down into episodes, setting up the storyline, adding complications, bringing something in out of left field, moment of truth to turn things round. Climax of the story. And we can get things like first sessions, season finales. So building up a storyline across multiple episodes, so you've got a big bad at the end of it all. Then we've got Lands of Darkness. So first of all, we've got England. So King of England, Arthur's realm. This is the stuff from Army of Darkness. Arthur and Henry are opponents. We've got a map of the castle. The main gate, hitching post, catapult row, the pit, just different areas within it, the workshop where Ash builds his mechanical hand, the Wiseman's Tower, the Duke's Tower, Knight's Quarters, barracks, stables, along with lots of NPCs, Henry the Red and his army, a map of the area around so we can see the windmill where Ash gets split into two, or attacked by his hand. We've got the graveyard where he finds the Necronomicon. We've got the cave where he takes the drops, just laying out where everything is in relation to one another, and descriptions of all those places. We've got some demons and creatures of darkness to populate it all with, different types of deadites, and their natural weapons, so to customize them a wee bit. Different relics like the Necronomicon and its story, but we've also got an ancient dagger, the Spear of Destiny, and explaining how you would play through the movie, making an Ash of yourself, how the different characters would slot in. Book of the Dead ×3, competent players, how to win friends and chop up people. And right through to the battle and then the resolution of the story. And then we're on to Worlds of Darkness. So we've got Gilgamesh, dark words of prehistory lurked the Watcher. Sat in the primeval forests and watched a growing race of self-important monkeys become men. It hated these weak creatures. From the city of Kandar came a champion, one who claimed he would destroy the Watcher. In our history, the hero is Gilgamesh. In your game, he's one of your players. Or at least he will be. So we've got the story begins in ancient Mesopotamia. We've got the Bronze Age, the heroes, Kandar, different locations within it, different monsters, to play out the saga of Gilgamesh, but in Army of Darkness, with your heroes being from throughout time. It could be Ash with his chainsaw fighting it off. What else we got? War is Hell. So we've got a World War II setting. It's December 16th, 1944, circa Europe in the middle of World War II. 5 months ago, Allies stormed the beaches of Normandy while Hitler slept. The Nazis were sent reeling. They've now found the Necronomicon, providing the madman with horrifically full and complete translation. While his forces retreat, Hitler is secretly preparing for a new offensive through the Ardennes. And basically, Hitler's going to be using the Deadites against the Allied forces during World War II. So the heroes arrive. We've got the Battle of Ardennes, like Band of Brothers, Verdun. Right up to Berlin. We're dropping the Spear of Destiny in here. The V weapons, whether the Nazis have nukes. Bjorn's sword, Hitler's hordes. So we've got the Death's Head. Screaming Mimmies, Uber Deadites. Werewolves, spelt the German way. Different gear, including jeeps, half-tracks, Sherman tanks. The German vehicles, so a Puma, Panzer IV, Tiger tanks. And going through all that. And then we've got a post-apocalyptic London. There's, throughout London, fires burn out of control. I'm trying to think. The heroes in this future are a mixture of time-travelling and natives. Time travellers may have overslept from circa England. The future dead explains where London is in shambles. Basically, a zombie raising bomb has gone off at Heathrow. Um, the Horde moved north into Canada and south through the United States. South America fell by the end of the year. England armed her island and refused all unsearched planes and ships. Carrying on through. Episode ideas, so different plots in that setting. And then we've got Once More Under the Breach. So a full plotted out adventure in a different setting for Army of Darkness. This is a fully fledged introductory adventure for brand new heroes. It means the secrets within are for the director only. The Pit. Creatures discovering a swampy moat around. Heroes discover the swampy moat around Arthur's castle. Waking the Promised One. Flying Demons attack. Basically just a follow-up to Army of Darkness. And we've got Unisystem conversion notes. We're getting towards the back of the book here, because while the Unisystem's the same across the different games, there are elements which are different. This is a little more powerful, so we've got conversion notes between the different versions. And it talks through the rules, fear tests, which are different in this, damage, magic, which tends to only be used by evil characters in Army of Darkness, but magic is part of the Buffy and Angel system. Anyway, we've got character creation basics, life point tables, quality and drawbacks lists, just quick summaries of different parts of the other parts of the book. Base damage table continued, and then index at the back, and we've reached the adverts for Buffy and Angel, Witchcraft, Armageddon, and All Flesh Must Be Eaten. A collectible card game for Army of Darkness. The City of Heroes role-playing game, which I hadn't been aware of at all. A sample character sheet, and then that's us at the back cover. Now, there's a lot to like in here. I really like the core concept of time-travelling heroes fighting deadites throughout time. That's really quite compelling. But there's so much wasted. An extra adventure set in the Medieval Dead setting, or Army of Darkness setting, and so much more which is just reproducing what was in the film. I suppose it's lots of material that the Games Master could use, because you're just going to use deadites and stuff like that. But I don't think having the main characters out of the movie is that important. It really should have been cropped down, and they should have given way more information for the time-travelling heroes idea. So that was the Army of Darkness RPG, and that won the poll this week with some 36% of the vote, which is only slightly ahead of the second place, Roadhogs for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which came in on 32%. Which I kind of thought was going to be the winner, actually. I thought its name recognition was going to beat Army of Darkness, but apparently not. We'll get around to that at some point, because I know people will love me to cover it. In third position was the Dalek sourcebook for the Doctor Who RPG from Faza from 1985. In fourth position was Dogs in the Vineyard, a rather interesting role-playing game which I will love to cover at some point, which came in on only 7%. And back in final position was High Colonies on only 6%. Sad to see this, because this is a very much missed RPG which I'd love to cover. But they'll all go in the polls again at some point in the future. Now, as usual, they're all cleared out of the poll, and we've got a fresh batch, and we're going back to our retro adventures. So, first up, we've got the ISIS coordinates for the Star Wars role-playing game from West End Games, and it came out in 1990. Now, this is the original Star Wars D6 system, which I absolutely love. I've spent 20 years covering it on my role-playing game site, rpggamer.org, and it'd be fantastic to look through another sourcebook. I think this is going to do well in the poll, but I've been wrong in the past. Next up, we've got San Francisco Knights for Cyborg Commando. Now, this is Gary Gygax's RPG that he went on to after leaving TSR and Dungeons & Dragons behind. It's an interesting idea, but heavily flawed, and I'd love to look at the adventure because there was just so much crazy stuff going on in this RPG. Next up, we've got Out in the Black for the Serenity role-playing game. Now, this is a fantastic role-playing game. It was quickly replaced by the Firefly role-playing game, but it'd be nice to look at the few adventures that came out for it. In fact, this might be the only adventure that came out for it. Next up, for Call of Cthulhu, we've got Utati Asphet, The Eye of Wicked Sight, which came out in 1996. Now, this is another sturdy book from Chaosium. Some absolutely great stuff in here. I'd love to look through it, as I've enjoyed looking through so many of the Call of Cthulhu adventures in the past. But we shall see if it wins. Again, Call of Cthulhu is pretty popular, so I think it's going to be between this and the Star Wars option. And finally, something way more modern, False Flag for the Salvage Union RPG from Leyline Press, and it only came out last year, 2023. Now, this is a very interesting role-playing game which is more mech combat, but I've watched some other people talking about it recently and they seem to get far more out of it than I did. So it'll be interesting to look at the adventures and see if there's something I missed. I don't think it's going to prove massively popular in the poll, but we shall see. It'd be great to cover something brand new. Now, on other channel-related stuff, well, on Drive-Thru RPG, I've not really been releasing anything. I've been doing a lot of work on converting my Legends of Fur and Steel RPG over to D20. It's taking a lot of time. It's now over 300 pages with all the D20 systems 5th edition rules going into it. But I'm working on some other stuff for Modern Horror, and that should be coming out in the next week. Over on RPGgamer.org, well, I've been working my way through a Darth Vader comic series, Black, White and Red, which was telling tales of Darth Vader but making him more a menacing presence. Now, the comic series kind of failed, but there were some interesting ideas in there, and I've been statting them out on the site. And now I'm going to go back to the Young Jedi Adventures series, as they released a new batch, the final batch of the first season, on Valentine's Day. So I'm going to enjoy looking through this kids series. It's kind of fun stuff, and I'll be statting it out. If you're into the Star Wars D6 system, then check it out over on rpggamer.org. I'd love to have feedback on what I'm doing. Apart from that, I'm not up to much, and I've been wittering on long enough as usual. So thank you very much for watching. As always, most of all, you look after yourselves. And I'll catch you later. Bye now.